Una delle più dolorose di queste ferite aperte è la tratta di esseri umani.
Human trafficking is slavery. It is the recruitment, harboring, or transporting of people into a situation of exploitation through the use of violence, deception, or coercion.
There's all this modern day slavery taking place, and that's what human trafficking is. It's just a modern day form of slavery.
In the past, slaves were physically chained, but quite often the chains today are invisible.
I felt that the issue of human trafficking needed a light shone on it in Scotland. There will be victims of trafficking in flats not far from here now, and that this will be happening all over Scotland.
I am a great grandson of former slaves, and so I can tell you from experience that slavery is something that continues in the psyche long after the abolition of it.
It's all part of the problem with economic migrants as well. You've got people who are living in poverty, impoverished conditions in third world countries, and of course, you know, they believe the lies of the traffickers who tell them, you know, come with us and we'll give you a better life, and then they come here and they're trapped.
The offer of well-paid work in the UK was too good an opportunity to miss. I could finally provide for my daughter in a way I always wanted to do. I remember kissing my daughter goodbye. It was a long drive across Europe, and we eventually arrived at David's house, and that's when the nightmare began. There was no job. Instead, over the next 4 years, I was a slave to 5 different men. Used it by each one until they had no more need for me.
One of the major places for human trafficking is in tourism, also in the construction industry, in many different farming, agriculture, many different places. So everywhere in Scotland, not just in the cities and large towns, but in rural places too.
The severity of the crime that people in modern day Scotland can be held in these circumstances and be treated so inhumanely, I think there's still a level of disbelief in our communities. I do think though that as more cases are identified and prosecuted and reported in the press, people are becoming more aware of the issue, and therefore people's reaction to the people who organise this crime and treat people that way is probably also shocked, and that they should have appropriate penalties through the justice system.
So in UK, in Scotland, there are people from Philippines, from Egypt, from other countries in Africa that they are brought here to work on board of fishing vessel, and they are paid very little. And when we go and we eat seafood, maybe we should think about these people, especially when we go to the supermarket and we buy the seafood. We should ask ourselves why the seafood is so cheap. We know that fishing vessel owner, they cannot cut the cost of maintaining the fishing vessel, they cannot cut the cost of fuel because the fishing vessel needs fuel to go out on sea and fishing. They cannot cut cost of maintaining the nets, but they can cut cost on the labor.
Human trafficking happens because it is profitable, plain and simple. It has grown exponentially, the profitability of it. And while only 19% of victims are trafficked for sex, sexual exploitation itself earns 66% of the global profits of human trafficking.
I was offered a chance of work in Germany for 3 months to make some money. but I ended up in Amsterdam. They beat me, making sure that the bruises didn't show when I went to work.
Natasha was trafficked for sex across Europe for 5 years.
I think it's important for people in communities in Scotland, whether you're in Dundee or in Inverurie, or to be aware of this first and foremost. Not to go out of your way to look for it, but perhaps to be aware of people in your own community.
The church is the largest community in the world, and so we have an enormous role to play in defeating human trafficking. We have many people who go around their business every day, and they will encounter people without knowing it perhaps who are enslaved. So it's just striking up a conversation, befriending people who are serving you, and if you're worried about what they're saying, something that's not quite right, then contact the police and let them investigate.
Victims don't often come forward because they fear for their own physical safety and reprisals perhaps on their families back home, wherever that home is, because all this is caught up in criminal gangs and highly organised criminal activity.
They are treated as a criminal, but it's not their fault because their passport is being taken by the skipper or by the fishing vessel owner. Their visa is not renewed. And so they are in an illegal situation, but not because they choose to be illegal.
One of the things that concerns me about human trafficking is that this can still go on in this day and age. I think my concern is the concern that most people would have, that such evil can be occurring in our own communities, and that's why campaigns such as the Church's campaign and others to get that message out there so we can make our communities robust against this is so important.
They rescued me then and there. The Hope for Justice team have been with my every step of the way. That's last few years. It's not been easy, but they very helped me get back on my feet. A place to live, good food, with learning new skills. I'm now working at a real job and I'm going to see my daughter again.
They appeared in my life like a guardian angel from the skies.
Since we rescued her, Natasha is rebuilding her life. She is back in touch with her daughter, and she has found a faith in God that gives her strength.
I know now that God exists and there are good people in the world. I always have hope that in the future everything will be okay. I never look back.